So now we have a special section put together by Deb. It was going to be on joy, and once Deb dug into it, she decided the real message should be Christmas. And so she has three selections about Christmas, and so Mayim is going to do the first of them, and then Deb is going to do the middle one because it turned out Barbara couldn't come. And then John Pip is going to do the third one.
Thank you. And I just want to add that I took that candle home and used it for my meditation on the solstice on Friday and Saturday night, burned it down till it was nothing and watched it and enjoyed this time of darkness, or is it the time of light? We were in the darkness and we're coming into the light. And that's what my quote is about. Deb picked a quote to start us off with that is kind of definitions from the Metaphysical Dictionary about the symbols of Christmas. And the first one has to do with light. So I'll just read that, and then I guess I'm supposed to say something about it too. So from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, stars are symbolic for revelations of truth that are yet remote. The human mind cannot conceive the wonders and immensity of the universe of stars in the heavens. The star that pointed the way for the wise men to find Jesus was in the east, and it symbolizes our inner conviction of our divine sonship. This inner conviction of our ability to accomplish whatever we undertake calls forth the very best in us and helps us to succeed. The accumulated wisdom and experience of the soul is symbolized by the wise men of the East. The wise men of the East rejoice when this faith in one's destiny to do the will of God begins to rise within, and all the riches of wise experience, such as gold, frankincense, and myrrh, are bestowed on the young child. These gifts represent the subconscious reserve forces of the organism that enter into and form the new body of Jesus. When the ego first appears in the subconscious, it is a mere, when the Jesus ego first appears in the subconsciousness, it is a mere speck of light, a star in the east. So that's the end of the quote. And just been really hibernating, a lot of quiet time and actually turning off all the lights. I have some little Christmas lights up that I love, but been turning them off and sitting in the darkness Friday and Saturday. And then the solstice point of turning has come and we're emerging into the light. I appreciate the symbolism there. I've been experiencing in my own meditations that I get to a point where I feel the light coming in. I'm sitting there, with my eyes closed in the darkness, and I begin to feel the light coming in, and it just feels so good. And it's so good to know that it's always there, that we can always find it. As it says in that explanation there, it symbolizes our inner conviction of the divine sonship. Always there, always present. We can always turn to it as the wise men turn to the star. Keep turning to that inner light and conviction.
Thank you, Mayim. Now, Deb.
This is from the Unity website, and it's a metaphysical interpretation of Christmas. And I quote, what is the story about metaphysically? Some say it's about the birth of Christ, but that's not possible. Christ is the light and love of God present in each of us. It is our true spiritual identity. the creative power of God seeking to express through us. It is, therefore, as eternal as God. It cannot be born. What can be born, however, is our awareness of our true Christ nature. And what can be and is reborn every Christmas is our personal surrender, allowing more of the Christ to begin to express through us. We can believe or not that Mary was a mortal virgin. It really doesn't matter. It is metaphysically true that the birth of Christ awareness is always a virgin birth. Its source is never the tangible world around us. Our willingness is embraced and implanted by divine awareness. So metaphysically, what we celebrate each Christmas is not the birth of Jesus of Nazareth and not the birth of the Christ, but the birth of Christ's awareness. What Jesus brought to us was a spark of new light, new possibility, a light that shines through the darkness of human confusion and illuminates the spiritual truth of who we are. And it doesn't just happen once. Every Christmas is a new birth, a new opportunity for each of us to give birth to more of the light and to commit ourselves to nurturing that light, trusting it, believing in its presence within us, sending it forth with every choice we make to bring more of itself into expression, to create more and more again of the new consciousness with which each of us is miraculously pregnant, the consciousness Jesus described as the kingdom of heaven. So, what does this quote mean to me? Well, it means everything. Some of you may know that I was raised in a completely atheist family, and I was thought miracles were silly old wives' tales. And obviously, Mary couldn't have been a virgin and given birth. And what does all that mean? Well, now, of course, I believe in miracles. But what opened, and I've had many in my life, but what opened that door for me was this, because not this particular quote, but this idea of a metaphysical birth. I had a lot of jobs as a church musician over the years, and I'm Catholic and Lutheran and Protestant. I finally wound up in a Unity church. And, I was listening every week and I said, oh my God, this actually makes sense to me. And that changed everything. So this was so important for me personally, but it's important for all of us to realize that, that whether or not you believe, and you're perfectly free to believe the story as told, as literal, but if you don't, it's okay. It's not only about that. It's about what that experience of being born means. And I can truly say it made me born again. So, and it happens all the time, and it doesn't just happen at Christmas. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deb. That was beautiful. And now John Pippa.
Yeah, hi everyone. Merry Christmas. I feel like I'm going to see a Christmas Carol. I feel like I'm the third ghost. The Christmas of a not so joyful Christmas. Okay. It's Making Peace with Grief by the Reverend Teresa Lee, a Unity minister. For most people, this time of year is one of celebrating joyfully as we gather. Yet for those of us who are grieving an empty place in the circle, at the table, and in our hearts, the constant reminders of togetherness can add to the overwhelming sense of grief. Whether the loss is due to death, divorce, moving, leaving the nest, or any change in relationship, it can be emotionally painful. My peacemaking practice for the holiday season is to accept, acknowledge, and allow. I accept it will be different. I acknowledge I may be uncomfortable, and I allow the feelings and emotions to come as they may. For me, here are some basic practical and emotionally helpful guidance reminders during the holiday season. I make a plan to not to isolate even when I feel lost and alone. I am honest about how I feel. I sit with my feelings and I talk about them. I decide which holiday traditions work for me and which ones to release and let go. I stay mindful of what and how much I am eating and drinking. I remember time doesn't heal my broken heart. My actions do. And I embrace being instead of doing and don't get too busy. And I would say all of those are good suggestions along with many others. I have had experience grieving my childhood, and sometimes that will come up during the holidays as well, my history. And it's important to acknowledge that history and be authentic. I love Daily Word is using that word more and more. They're getting in touch with that through the recovery process, probably, but being authentic, being your true self. And so, and I identify with every Christmas is different. I treat them like the Christmas Carol. They each have their own personality, and that's how it is this year. That has helped me. And to stay in the day, it's just one day. It's not this, but it can be difficult. And I don't isolate. I get around people, whether it's go to a marathon, a recovery marathon. I'm grateful for that. That's always available. I'm so grateful I must say, for recovery. That's what guided me to Unity, and a lot of Unity attracts a lot of people in recovery. And I just don't ever have to feel alone. I can get on a meeting on a phone now, on the internet, or in person, and there's no way I can go show up and not say a word, but just be in company. And that breaks the isolation, the sense of I'm doomed or alone or despair. Very powerful emotions that sometimes can come up for me. So, yep, I grieve. I continue to grieve now and then, and I look forward to this different holiday this year with one of my cousins that's invited me out to Western Mass, and hopefully my 24-year-old car will make it. But I have AAA and God. All right, thank you, Pass.
Thank you, John. That was wonderful. Thank you to Deb for putting this together, and thank you to all of you who have participated. That was truly uplifting.